Okay, so these should have came out to 3, 3, and 7. Like I said, distance can't be negative, so they should all be positive numbers. There's different ways you could have figured that out. You could have counted on the number line like the olden days, and you just done 1, 2, 3. Okay, from 5 to 2 is 3 units. So yeah, that's how you could have done it. The other way you could have done it is subtracted them and then take the absolute value. So you could subtract these two numbers, 5 minus 2, and then take the absolute value of 3, which is 3. Why would you need to do absolute value? Well, if you look at the next one, if you do negative 5 minus negative 2, add the opposite and you get negative 3. Well, distance can't be negative, so that's why you take the absolute value and it's just 3. So that's what this explains here. To find distance on a number line, just subtract the values, take the absolute value. Distance can never be negative, unless we're time traveling, but as far as I know, we haven't made it that far. So, next we're going to look at midpoint on a number line. So midpoint is the middle of a segment. So like here's a number line. Let's say this is 3 and this is 8. And here's our segment. It has 1 point at 3 and 1 point at 8. And then let's say it wants the midpoint. Like they want to know where this is located on the number line. The way to do that would be to take these two values and find the average, or add them and divide by 2. So we do 3 plus 8 and divide by 2. And that would be 11 over 2. 11 divided by 2 is 5.5. So this midpoint here would be at 5.5. So to find the middle of two numbers, just find the average by adding them and dividing by 2. Midpoint can be negative because it's just a location. It's not like a length or anything. Okay, so these are just a couple practice, like very simple. It says find the distance between the 2 points, and then we're going to find the midpoint between the 2 points. So for distance, remember we just subtract them and take the absolute value. So we're going to do negative 36 minus negative 95, and then take the absolute value. So add the opposite. You can plug that in a calculator. I know you Common Core kids are good at mental math. It comes out to 59. So just 59 is the answer. So if you had a point on a number line at negative 36 and negative 95, they're 59 units apart. And then for B, same process. Negative 65 minus 12. And that comes out to negative 77, if I remember correctly. And distance can't be negative, so that's why we take the absolute value and we get 77. So the distance between negative 65 and 12 on the number line is 77 units. That's what we found. Okay. Sorry. I don't know what pace is just right. Guess I'll learn it to you guys too. Okay. So next one, midpoint. We're finding the midpoint between these 2 points. So imagine like 2 dots on a number line, one at negative 6, one at negative 19, and you're finding the middle dot. To find midpoint, we're going to add the two numbers together and divide by 2. So negative 6 plus negative 19 divided by 2, negative 25 divided by 2, and that equals negative 12.5. So the midpoint between negative 6 and negative 19 is negative 12.5. And then for B, we're going to do the same thing. just add the two values, divide by 2 to find the middle. Okay, so the next part, it brings in, it's still talking about midpoint, but it brings in like the midpoint of a segment. So it says find the length of AC if AB is 10. So the length of AC would be this whole segment. It says AB is 10. Another thing it shows us is that it gives this little tally right here. So that means that B is the midpoint and this is the same length as this over here. So if this is 10, then this must be 10 since they're the same length, and then the length of AC would be 20. So AC equals 20. Okay. Number 2 is just like that. The only difference is it doesn't give you the picture. It says point W is the midpoint of UV. So you'll have to just kind of sketch it out. Point W is where it would start. And it says that is the midpoint of segment UV. So then I draw the rest of the segment UV. And since W is the midpoint, then UW and WV are the same length. It wants us to find the length of UV, and it tells us that WV is 14. So for these, you really just have to like sketch it out and label it, and once you do that, it just feels, it'll feel easy. So if this is 14, then this has to be 14. It wants to know this whole length would just be 14 plus 14, so 28. And so UV is 28. Feels easy still so far. Okay, so number 3, it says find the length of FM. So it wants just the length of this part. It shows that they're both the same length on each side of M. We need to find X. Since this is a midpoint and this is the same length as this, then we can set these two sides equal to each other to find X. So 7X minus 6 equals 5X. And then once we find X, we can plug it in. So solving for X, I'm trying to get all the X's on the same side. And X equals 3. I know finding X is satisfying, but we're not quite there yet because the question wanted us to find the length of FM. FM is 5X, so we have to take this and plug it in. FM equals 15. Okay, for the sake of our brain energy, we're actually going to skip number 4. It's the exact same as 3 where you like set it equal to find X and then plug it in. And then once you're done with that, just flip to the next page and we'll continue. Okay. We're continuing with midpoint, but they add on a little bit. So for this, we're finding midpoint on like a diagonal line. So let's say we have our coordinate plane and then we have a line segment like this. And it wants to know the coordinates of the midpoint. So we want to know the coordinates of the midpoint. So like we're looking for an X and a Y value, like 6, 5 or so is what we're looking for. So they'll give us these two coordinates and then we have to find the midpoint. There is an equation for this and it's on the reference sheet. So I'm going to have you write it down. It says midpoint formula and it's this equation right here. So I'm going to write it down with you, but just so you know where it is. You don't have to have it memorized or anything. It's x1 plus x2 over 2. So you're taking the average of the x values. And then y1 plus y2 over 2. You're finding the average of the y values. So the two coordinates we're going to practice with are, say we have the coordinates 1, 2 and 11, 8. And then we're asked, okay, what is the midpoint between these two coordinates? Okay, so we're going to use this equation. To use this equation, we're going to label our points. So the first set of points would be x1, y1, and then x2, y2. And then plug them into the equation. So adding the x's, x1 plus x2 divided by 2, and then y1 plus y2 divided by 2. And then just simplify this so you can't anymore. So I get 12 over 2, 10 over 2. You can go further, 6 and 5. And so this is our midpoint between these two coordinates. Now that's the formula way of doing it. I also am going to teach you kind of like a shortened hack way of doing it, but it's important that you know the formula way in case you're asked about the formula or you have to manipulate the formula or however standardized testing likes to do it. But this hack way will work most of the time, and it's generally easier for students to do. So for these practice problems, I'm going to show you a slightly different way using the same concept, just it feels a little bit easier. So here it gives you two coordinates, s and t, and you're asked to find the midpoint. So I'm going to write out s is 4, -1, and then I'm going to leave some space and put t is 6, 0. And then I'm trying to find the midpoint between these 2 points. Okay, so now I can look at just the x values and just the y values separately. What's the middle of 4 and 6? 5. Cool. So you just found the x coordinate. And then the middle of -1 and 0. Good job. That may not have been as obvious to some people. That's cool. My brain doesn't always work like that either. If it's not obvious to you, then you can just find the average, add those two, and divide by 2. So -1 plus 0 divided by 2, get -1/2, or like Lucas said, -0.5, however your brain likes to see it. Okay, we're going to try it again. So L is at 4, 2, then P is at 0, 2, and then we're going to find the middle. Okay, so the middle of 4 and 0, Lucas, you're not allowed to answer. It's 2, yeah. The middle of 4 and 0 is 2. And then the middle of 2 and 2 is just 2, yeah. Okay, and then C. Okay. And finding the midpoint. I'll always go to the easiest part first. I know the middle of 5 and 3 is just 4. That's easy. -5 and 7, it doesn't jump out at me. It might to Lucas. Does it jump out to you? 1. It is 1. Really? You just... Anyways, if you're not, like, crazy genius, add them and divide by 2. -5 plus 7. Divide by 2. And you get 2 over 2 is 1. Okay. One more concept, just kind of building on this. Finding the midpoint, cool. Now, what happens if they give you point R? They give you, I should keep the colors consistent, R. They give you the midpoint, and then we don't know where S is. It's supposed to be a question mark. Yikes. Okay, that's supposed to be a question mark and an S. We don't know where S is. What do we do now? Well, you could use the equation and like work it backwards, or here's how I like to teach it because I feel like it's a little bit easier. R is at 1, 2. Oh, I'm mixing up the numbers. Let me keep the the color's the same. R is at 1, 2. Then midpoint they gave us as at -2, 1. And then we're trying to figure out what S is. Okay, so what you can do is look at how far this is. So for example, -2 to 1 is going up 3. So to get S, we just got to go down 3. So that would make this -5. Or from 1 to 2, that's up 1. So to get this coordinate, we just go down 1, so that would be 0. Okay. We're going to repeat that in the next examples. Are you caught up, Bates? Whoever else? Most? Okay, so in these examples, it's called a missing endpoint. We're given R is at 6, 0. Oh my gosh, I'm like messing up. I'm trying to keep the colors consistent and I keep messing up my own game. Okay. R is at 6, 0, M is at 0, 2, and then we're trying to figure out what S is. Okay, so from 0 to 6, that's +6, so then we gotta go -6 to get this guy. So this must be at -6. And then here, we're going down 2 on the Y. So we gotta go up 2 this way to get 4. That's our answer. Okay, repeating this with B. We got R, R is at 3, 4. Midpoint is at 3, -2. And S, we're trying to figure out. For 3 to be the middle, this would have to be 3. Essentially, if you want to think of it as like +0 -0, would be 3. And then from -2 to 4, that would be +6, so we can go down 6 this way to get -8. One more, we're going to do C and then we'll just skip D. Okay. R is at -3, -2. Oh my gosh, I keep messing up the colors, but -1, -8. And then S. Okay, so -1 to -3, that would be -2, so then we gotta do +2. So that'd be 1. And then from -8 to -2, that would be +6, so then I gotta go -6 here, -14. Okay, like I said, for the sake of our brains, we're gonna skip D. The next page is just kind of looking over what we did yesterday, so we're gonna just kind of breeze through it. So when you're ready, just kind of slide it over. Good. Okay. So over here, it's just going over distance on a coordinate plane, like finding the distance of a segment. You can use Pythagorean theorem, which is a squared plus b squared equals c squared, to find the length of that. You can also use distance formula, which is honestly just a variation of the Pythagorean theorem. X2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. Either one works. I saw a lot of people just choosing to use graph paper because they felt like it was easier for them. That's cool. Either one will give you the same answer. So we're just going to go through one of these examples here, just reviewing what we learned yesterday. They gave you 2 coordinates. I'm going to graph it. -5, 3, 2, 6. Connecting the dots here. Okay. And then we're finding the length of this line. I'm going to sketch out right triangle. So I can use Pythagorean theorem. say 3 units by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 units. So using Pythagorean theorem, 3 squared plus 7 squared equals c squared, and that'll give me the length of this line. So we have 9 plus 49, 58. And then c equals, I don't know what it comes out to, 7.62-ish. Okay. And I'm going to stop there to give you plenty of time to work on your homework. If you want to on your homework, you can use these little graphs. You can also use, there's graph scratch paper over there too. Once you're done with the homework, hop on to Khan Academy and work on your weekly Khan Academy. And what's that? It's on Schoology. Homework 1-3. Yes, grab a laptop, get logged on. Yes, okay, I will pass it out to you. So, like your login, I'll pass it out to you in a second. I have it over there. Oh my gosh, it is so warm in here. Yeah, just sign out. Oh, I forgot I'm still recording. Oops.